Hi everyone, this is Eric from Dumb Game Dev, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of networking using Pun 2 by Photon. So this is Photon Unity Networking, Pun 2, so this is not version 1. And to follow along with this tutorial, you're going to need Playmaker installed, and so I already have that done. Check. You're going to want to install the Pun custom actions here, which are on the ecosystem, and I'll have a link for that as well if you want to download it directly from Git. But if you have the ecosystem installed, look for these Playmaker Pun 2 actions, and you're going to find them. The next thing you're going to need is this Playmaker custom sample of Photon Unity Networking, and it has a simple connection sample. And I've got it open on the screen here, and this is what it looks like. And of course, most importantly, you're going to need Pun 2, which you can get from the asset store. You can just go ahead and grab the free version. The free version allows up to 20 CCUs. That means you can have up to 20 concurrent users at any one time. So even if you had a few hundred people buy a game, 20 concurrent users is usually more than enough for what you're going to need. And it's definitely more than what you're going to need for the beginning. Now, to use Pun 2, once you have it installed, it will want to bring you through the Pun wizard, so go ahead and follow this through. And you are also going to need to set up your Pun, and what this means is you need to go to Photon, the website, and open an account, and you will need to set up a new game there, and it will give you an app ID, and you need to make sure that you put your app ID into your game, and that will save it there. And otherwise, you won't be able to connect. You will need to do that, and it will keep annoying you until you get your app ID. So I'm not going to go through that process, but go ahead, jump over to the Photon website and get your app ID. You can get it for free for 20 CCUs. And then what you can do here is you can go Photon Unity Networking. If you need to adjust the settings later, and choose Highlight Server Settings. And you can see, unfortunately, my ID here, and I will have to change it after this. But there's my ID, and you should maybe set an app version if you want. This is so two versions don't automatically connect with each other, so I could just call this version 1. I'm using a name server. Yes, we could set a fixed region, so if we wanted to be Japan, or we wanted it to be US West, or whatever. Normally we leave this to be blank, and it will connect to the best one automatically. Everything else should pretty much be the way you need it. I've got mine currently set to start in offline mode, and as it says, this simulates an online connection, and Pun can be used as usual. So this is good for testing if you are just one person. Or you can also unclick this, like where you might for now, and that's good. Okay, so why we need the sample? Well, Pun works on a system called callbacks, and what this means is when something happens in Pun on the server, it sends a message back to us, the local client, telling us whether it's been successful or not, or what happens. And so this works a lot like events, and so why don't we take a look. So Gene has set up this Playmaker Photon proxy, which will need to be in each room or scene that you use Pun. And this will get these callbacks for us and send them to our episomes. And so why don't we open up this example Pun callback watcher, click Edit. And here you can see it has a bunch of events that have already been created. And what happens is when something happens on the Photon server, it will automatically trigger these events for us so we can do something. So for example, all of these are about connections to the server. So when we've connected to the server, this will be called automatically. When we've connected to the master, this will be called automatically. And when we've disconnected, this will be called automatically. And so this can be helpful in our game, for example, when we connect to the server, then we can allow people to join rooms. So if they haven't been connected, we don't want them to try and join a room yet, for example. Or, for example, if someone is disconnected from the server, we need to let them know and say, hey buddy, you're no longer connected to the server. We need to do something like maybe try and reconnect. So we need to set up some of that logic ourselves. So these super cool events that have already been set up by Gene at Playmaker makes this easy to access these callbacks. So to know all of the callbacks, they are in fact listed on the Photon website, and we might take a look at that a little bit later. But for now, we'll just sort of muddle through based on what they say. Now, let's see what else we have. We have a connection controller. Why don't we take a look at this? And so I can see this one handles, Gene has set up, it handles trying to connect to the server for us, and this is linked to the buttons. We're going to try and recreate this on our own from scratch because we don't want to be always using this exact sample, but we can use these callbacks, which are nice. And I see Gene has a lobby controller and a room controller that has, like, for example, if we've joined a room and these sort of things. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what the best way to do this is, and I think what I'm going to do is just create a new scene from scratch, but we'll copy over some of these episomes. And so if you haven't already opened this up, you can open up the simple connection, and it will be scene. It will be in the, let's see here, it will be in Playmaker, custom samples, Photon Unity networking, simple connections, and then the scene will be here. I've already dragged mine into the asset folder, so mine's right here just so I can grab it easier. Now I'm going to create a new scene, and I'm going to call this, I don't know, maybe like, whoop, that's a script. Let's create a scene. I'll call mine just maybe like custom connection. And what I'm actually going to do is just drag and drop this in so we have two scenes loaded at once. And I'm just going to use this to cheat a little bit so I can get some stuff done faster. And I'm going to grab this callback watcher and duplicate it, and then I'm going to drag it into my custom scene, and I can just rename it back to the original name. This way I just don't have to make the episome again, and it already has all the event names and everything I want, which is, you know, great. So we'll do that. So we can go ahead and I guess I'm going to remove this scene and not save it. And let's see here. Just wondering if there's a here, add-ons, Photon networking, add Photon proxy to scene. So that's what we need. We need this to get those callbacks that are now in this callback watcher. So we've got these callbacks here. So the next thing we're going to do is need to actually create some kind of a menu button to connect to the server, and you know, maybe a message that says you've connected or something like that. So why don't we go ahead and do that. So I'm horrible at making menus. I've got this set to sort of a weird aspect ratio, but why don't I set this as like a 5x4 just so I have something fixed, and I can go ahead and create a UI. And from the UI, I'm going to create a button with TextMesh Pro, and it's going to say, okay, new project, you need to import the essentials, and I'll say, okay, give me everything I need. And that should be good, and our button's sort of way in the middle of nowhere. So if we grab this, and I'm holding down the Alt key to center it, and it will center this. And that will be good. And we can scale up our button maybe a little bit here. Got a width and a height, so let's just make this bigger, like 300 by 50. So I'm not teaching you guys how to make a super awesome GUI, but we'll call this, I don't know, button text, just so I can find it later. And my button, I'm going to call it connect to master. And why don't we hit this auto size? Well, apparently auto size doesn't like me, so we'll just set this to 20 so we can see. Now, when it comes to using the new button system in Playmaker, I'm still a little bit behind. I'm used to using the proxy, but we don't need to use the proxy anymore, apparently. So we won't use the proxy, and I'm just going to manage this probably from not the canvas. The canvas is probably not the best place to manage it Well, okay, let's just be lazy. And right on the canvas, I'm going to add an episome. And I won't name it yet, but what we want to do is have some click event coming from this button. We want to know when this button's been clicked. And we can do that by... And you know what? Actually, I'm not going to make it right here. I'm going to go back to... I'm going to go back to this callback watcher and actually deal with everything right here. I think it's a good way to deal with it. I like to see all what's going on. So I'll just move these over. So when this starts, we want to register for this button's clicks, right? And we want to make sure that it's active. So why don't we create a variable, and it's going to be a game object variable, and this is going to hold our button game object. So I'm just going to call this my master button. I like to use just one button if possible, and this super master button is going to be this button here. We'll just drag it in. And let's open up the action browser, and we'll dock it up here. Where can I dock this guy? There we go. So I think that's sort of the typical way that we do this. So get button clicks, and we want to search for, we want to make sure that the UI is set is interactable. So you could just search the word UI interactable, and we want to make sure that this UI button is clickable, because we want them to be able to click connect to master. So is interactable, I'm going to say yes, true, and we also want to start listening for the button. So it would be something like UI on click event, and we should be able to find it. UI button on click event, so we grab that one, we'll make it next, and we'll specify the object, and it's the button. So then we will say, I probably should have made this another episome, but oh well. Event itself. Button clicked. So if the button is clicked, we'll have an event. And what we want to do is we'll call this one connect to master server, or connect to master, because that's what we want to do. We want to get ourselves connected as quickly as possible. So let's go to Photon, and we want to say something like, what do we want to search? Photon connect, right? Or I guess it's under pun, so that makes sense too. Okay, pun connect to master. So there we go. Now, we shouldn't need anything here, and we shouldn't need any port. I'm hoping we can do it without any of these because they're set automatically on the default. So you could set your own server address, I believe, here if you're using custom server, but we're not, so it shouldn't be necessary. We'll find out, won't we? Okay, so when we click this button, it should connect to the master, and then it's going to trigger one of these saying, yes, we have successfully connected, or no, we haven't successfully connected. So why don't we see if this actually works, and then we'll be able to proceed from there. Okay, so I've got a failed parsing address here. So let's disable that so that it seems like this is not going to work for us the way it is. Okay, we're going to switch this. Instead of using connect to master, I'm going to use pun connect to best cloud server. So I guess because we're using a cloud server, and because we're using the Photon network service, that's what it's going to be called here instead. let's give that a try. Okay, so we have connected to the master, but I didn't see it. Oh, there we go. So on connected was, we got the callback, and then now we've connected to the master server. So that's great. So now we've actually connected to Photon, and we can do something. So it's that simple. Hopefully that wasn't too difficult for everyone, especially if we're copying these nice pre-made, well thought out pun callbacks. So the next thing we want to do is actually, maybe do something once we've done that. So I want to change this text. I'm just going to do this all as one button and do it as a simple, super quick connect. And so once we've joined the server, we want them to be able to click a button saying, join room or something. So why don't we go, okay, so connect to master. So while it's connecting, we're going to, again, set UI is interactable to false. And why is that? I don't want them to click the button again while we're connecting. We don't want to try and resend this message. So they're clicking, it's trying to connect, and while it's trying to connect, they can click nothing. And what we also want to do, let's see if we have a button text, set text. Okay, good times. So what we're going to need to do actually is download and install my custom actions, which are also free, which is the Text Mesh Pro actions. And again, I'll have a link for that below, because what I want to do is adjust the text here, and I'm using the Text Mesh Pro to do that. So I'm just going to cut in and out as I do that, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so I've jumped over to my GitHub account here, and I'll have the link, but it's github.com/dumbgamedev/ there's a lot of capitals here and underspaces, but Text Mesh Pro Playmaker, and you can find it in the list. And you don't need to be signed in or signed up or anything like that to get these actions. You just need to go clone or download and click download zip, and it's going to download a zip of all of the actions you're going to need. Supposedly, at some point. And then once these are downloaded, what you're going to do is unzip the zip and put it all into your project. So let's see here. I don't know if I can do this the lazy man's way. Can I just drag and drop this in? Oh, there we go. Can I unzip here? No. So I'm going to go show in folder here and open this up and just extract here. And it created a folder here called Text Mesh Pro Playmaker Master, and I can go ahead and delete this. Actually, I'll delete it from inside of Unity because they don't like it when I do it otherwise. So it will compile for a second, because what it's doing is Playmaker is figuring out what all these scripts are, and Unity will recompile the C#. Okay, so now I can go ahead and delete this, and now we should have the Text Mesh Pro actions in here. So we will go back and open up this FSM again. Enter our FSM, and I am going to make one more variable here just because I like to be lazy. And this game object will be called button text, or master button text, just to keep everything consistent. Okay. So when the game starts, I want the text, so let's say set text, set text mesh pro text. So it sounds like that's what it should be, but what we want is to set the text mesh pro UGUI text, because this is the UGUI component and not the regular text mesh component. Okay, so we've got it here. specify a game object. The game object is going to be the master button text. And when the game starts, I want it to say connect to master, right? And I can just Control C to copy, and I think I can go Control V to paste, and there we go. And what I'm going to do is just change this to the word connecting ... so people know that they are connecting. Okay, so once they have connected to the master, we want them to be able to click the button again. So UI set is interactable is true. And we want to change the text again. And I'm going to change the text to say connect to room. So we're not going to do any lobbying or anything like that. For the simple tutorial, it doesn't make sense. And in most cases, for most games, you don't want people sitting in the lobby. You just want them to be connecting automatically to a room. And then once they've connected to the room, they can join right away, right? There's not as much waiting. Or they can connect to the room and they might be put in a wait just until the game finishes. But sitting in a lobby is not necessarily a better user experience. So we're just going to avoid that for now anyways. So why don't we save this, push play, and to make sure this is actually working like we want it to. And it looks like we probably have an error here as this UGUI is not, doesn't look like it's working properly. Okay, so why is that? Let's take a look at our variables, and the reason is I forgot to actually set a variable value into the master text button. Smooth. Okay, so let's drag the button text into there. Push play again. So connect to master, and this is connecting. You can see we can't click, and it goes darker in color. And then it should eventually go to connect, and then say yes, we've connected to the master server through the cloud. Okay, so then we could, click to connect to the room, but that doesn't do anything yet. So. Okay, so once we've connected, let's just add another transition here. Say a finished transition, we'll go to another state. And we'll call this one connect to room. You know what, actually we don't want to, let's say join room. Yeah, I'll change my text here to join room. And let's see what we've got in Photon here for join room. Join room. So we'll open up here, and our options are join random room. It says joins in available room, but will fail if none is currently available. And that's fine. Why don't we do that? Let's see if that will work for us. So join random room. Okay. So it's got some options here, and I'm not going to play around with them. We're just going to try and join a room until it's full, and the maximum of players in the room to filter, blah blah blah. So you can go ahead and read these later, but for now I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to worry about any custom properties or anything like this. So we want to try and join a room. Now, once we've joined or failed joining a room, we're going to need more callbacks here to let us know whether that's a success or a failure. Now, I'm not sure if, let's see here, if it's already in Photon automatically somewhere. Custom events, Photon, system events, UI events. So we're too lazy to make our own Photon callback events. Plus, honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know what they all are. They're obviously something like photon backslash and then the name of what they are. But you know, if you're new to this and you don't want to look up a lot of stuff, that's just too much work. So what we're going to do again is make sure we save this first. Then we're going to go back to the simple connection, drag it in here, and we should see some kind of like room controller or something. Let's inspect this, edit this episome and see. Okay, so we have an on-joined room. That sounds good. Create. Okay, we are back, and I did figure this out. And what I needed to do is, let me just remove my custom script here, is when each callback happens, you can watch the callback, the last callback event happen here, and you can get the name of the event from here to make your own event if you need to. So I did make my own event. I made two events here. One is called photon, all capitals, space. So space here, slash, space, on join room failed, which will get called if you're just trying to join a specific room. And we're trying to join a random room. And it's the same thing, but you want on join random room failed. And we can watch this happen. And we'll just click play. And we're going to connect to the master. And why don't we jump over here to the photon proxy so we can see what's going on. So it says, okay, you know, we've got the region list, and we don't need to worry about these ones. And then it says it's connected. And then here we have on join random room failed. So that was the event that we needed. Okay, so I also forgot to add some sort of a button click here to join the room. So we want something like, you know, join button. And I can even move these over to here. So we'll just separate out this logic. So we're going to wait for this button to be clicked. And again, we can just use the same UI button on click event. And we'll just copy this, paste it over. And so when this button is clicked, then it will try and join the room. We can say like, try join room. And then it will try and join the room. And we know it's going to fail because no one else is playing. We're the first player. But we don't know that. I mean, we know that now when we're developing this, but we don't know that when we're playing it, right? So I'm going to make a new state here called failed to join. And what we're going to do instead is create a room. And I'm going to use this as a dummy state just to, so we know what's going on, but I don't need anything in there. I just want it to automatically go to the next state, which is going to be something like create room, right? I want to make a room. So pun create room. And we can set the room name to nothing. It will come up with one automatically, and that's fine. You know, we don't even need to share the room names in most games, so they can be perfectly random, and it doesn't matter because the end users don't actually see. They're just joining the next best random room that fits their criteria. So we want it to be visible, we want it to be open, and you know, say we have the maximum of players 4. We don't need to put it into any specific type of lobby or anything like that, so we'll just call this, you know, try create room. And just like before, we need some kind of fail logic. So we have on join room, so that's successful. And why don't we, again, just check back to the samples here and see if they have a failed event here for failing to connect to a room. So I'm not sure which FSM it's in. Let's have a look. On join room. Okay, here's on create room fail. So that sounds good. So we'll just copy that one over and paste it onto our FSM, which we're just being FSM ninjas here and putting onto everything. So we have on create room fail. Now you don't normally need a with pun2, we'll find out if that's the case here, but normally you don't need a on create room success, because once you've created a room, you automatically join it, because the person creating the room is the master for that room. So you will need to be in the room. Okay, so let's just remove the simple connection here and go back to ours. And so we're trying to create a room, and I don't know why I'm organizing these this way. Okay, so when we're trying to join a room, we again want to change the button information. So let's just copy these over. And when we're trying to join the room, I want the button to be non-interactable. I don't want people to click it again. And I'm just going to add the words like joining, so it's trying to join the room. Okay, then let's just add some words here just for our own edification. We'll just copy and paste these over there. So if we failed, we'll just say failed, and we'll add the same thing on joined room, and we'll have join success. And we'll probably never end up seeing join success, because when we have join success, that means that we are going to join the room, which means we'll change scenes. But for now, we haven't set up any of that logic, so we just want to see what's going on. So I've clicked play, and okay, connecting. And we're going to click to join a room. Now it's trying to join, and it didn't work. So now we're trying to create a room, and that worked. And so now we have join success. So when I say join or create a room, I don't think I need to give any extra messages there that we're automatically trying to. Now what you could also do is, if you have room failure, like you failed to create a room, we don't need to change anything here. We could just say like failed, trying again. And this won't work because we won't ever fail. Right now our network situation is good enough. But it would just set that text for us, and then we could add like a wait state here, just so it doesn't ping pong real too fast for us. We'll just give the a computer a chance to let those network connections resolve themselves. So waited, and then you could say try to create a room. So if we failed to join or we failed to create, then we'll try and create a room, and you could let that go. You could also add some sort of a loop here and say, try like 5 times, and after 5 times have failed, then, show a message to the user like, please check your network connections, or, restart this program or whatever else. So that's it. This is, we've already finished in this one tutorial that hopefully wasn't too bad and gives sort of an idea of how the callbacks work, how to connect to a room, or how to connect to the master, how to create a room, how to join a random room, and stuff like that. So this should get you up and started. So in the next tutorial, we're going to show how to actually load up a room and load like a player, which is going to be a cube in that room. So check us out in the next tutorial.